Early this morning, I was awoken, covered in sweat, potentially other bodily fluids as well. It was awful. I had a nightmare, and for the first time in a long time, I'm scared. I'm scared that I don't have enough Bitcoin, and I'm scared that I'm not bullish enough. You see, over the last couple of months, slowly one by one, I think people have started to awaken to the possibility that this bull market is starting, and this bull market is not like other bull markets. For anybody that was around in crypto back in 2020, maybe early 2019, and we saw Bitcoin get up to 10K, crash down to 3 or 4K, and then begin its rise to 69K. Nice. During that initial period, that initial rise where Bitcoin just went up and up and up for weeks and weeks and months with barely pullbacks, that truly did give the world, for the very first time, the world, FOMO with cryptocurrency. 2017 got a lot of people excited, but for the very first time, 2020 and in the 2021 bull market is what gave institutions their very first taste of FOMO. We started to see our very first institutions express interest for the first time. We started to see the very first nation, El Salvador, adopt it as a currency, national currency. But more so than anything, what I want you to think about right now, because right now you're very fortunate, I want to explain why. Very fortunate, all of us right now, because that FOMO has not kicked in. But if you remember back to 2019, 2020, if you were there, you should understand how quickly it can and does kick in. So if you're fortunate enough right now to be where you are, in one of the toughest inflationary periods most of you have ever seen and might ever see, depending, before true FOMO to the solution kicks in, then I think it's worth taking a step back and being grateful for this opportunity. Because I have no doubt in 1 year from today, as I sit here today, in exactly 1 year from now, I'm not gonna watch this video, but if I did, I'm sure I would be saying, wow, I was 99% invested at this moment. Maybe I should have been 99.9% invested. And all I mean by that is that I think what we're gonna see over the next 12 months is extremely, extremely bullish. And there's reasons for that. I want to take you back 2 years ago at the beginning of 2022, the Fed started aggressively raising rates. Here we are about 2 years later at the end of 2023, 2 full years of rates demolishing us, and we've had 2 pauses. And it's very likely, from anyone credible or knowledgeable about these markets will tell you that it's very likely now, for the first time, we have seen the end of this rate hiking cycle, the first time in 2 years. And it came at a cost. People are absolutely demolished financially. It's hard to afford anything. I'm not struggling financially personally right now. However, I go to the grocery store, get some milk, eggs, maybe a couple potatoes, and I look at the bill. It's outrageous, right? It's crazy. Things are incredibly unaffordable for people in the US and outside the US as well. Inflation is really kicking people while they're down. Literally right now, interest rates on your mortgage rates are 8% or something. If you wanted to buy a house, you would have to pay basically twice the monthly payment right now than you would have had to pay a year and a half ago, because they've doubled, right? It's crazy how unaffordable everything is. And so at some point, I think it's very likely the next movement we'll see with rates are to the downside, meaning cuts and some relief. As the everything is contracting, just like the Fed devised, that was their goal. And more importantly, though, for the very first time, we're seeing billion-dollar, trillion-dollar institutions like BlackRock, like just billionaires, right? I mean, for example, there's already like 10 Bitcoin spot ETFs that are even interested in being approved. There's so much money, trillions of dollars interested in Bitcoin getting in for the first time. How will that affect this cycle? How will that affect, you know, will these cycles repeat the way they've done so far indefinitely? I have a hard time believing that. I think personally at some point there will be a fundamental change. We all know like the S curve and like technology adoption, how at one point it can basically just go parabolic and there's an inflection point where things can just go crazy. For me, looking at this, I think if it's possible, I think we're about to head into that time now. Because what are some things you need for something like that to happen? Well, you need mainstream adoption, but you need institutional adoption. You need basically everything to adopt Bitcoin. And 2020 and 2021 was the very first taste to where people, I mean, even think back then, the economy, everything was like, because of the crash and everything, things though, it was free money, right? Interest rates were so low, it was a lot easier to afford things. Now, 2 years later, people are looking for solutions. People are looking for alternatives. And there is one giant flashing alternative that's in everyone's face that I think that once we really start to see FOMO kick in, once we break 40K per Bitcoin, once we break 50K per Bitcoin, once we get up to 60K and then break all-time highs around 69,000, nice. Once that happens, will more and more people be looking for a alternative, a solution? Well, it's not me necessarily that thinks that the answer is yes, but I think it's institutions and people that are looking to be the custodians, the trillion dollar asset managers that are looking to be the people to sell you Bitcoin. That's more telling, I think, than anything. I think they see what's coming. And that's really the key here, is to be successful. Something you truly need in investing is to just have some good foresight, to be able to look a little bit into the future at what makes sense given the conditions of where we are and everything. You have to factor in a lot of things, so it's not very simple. I'm oversimplifying it, but if you're able to even do a decent, like a bare minimum okay job at it, as opposed to completely missing the mark, then you can benefit immensely. And I think that it's very clear that with everything going on, I mean, even in fact, actually just a couple of days ago, I think we got the newest unemployment. It's the highest unemployment that we've gotten, I think around 3.9% since the Fed started raising rates. So we're still seeing these rates take effect. But anyway, the point is, this is the very first time that it looks to me to be a perfect storm of things shaking up. And if you're watching this video and you're listening to everything that I'm saying and you're thinking to yourself, no, just wait, there's going to be a black swan that's going to crash everything, you know, that's always possible. But is it realistic? And even if something like that did happen, how long would it crash everything? How long would it destroy everything? People love fear. Fear is one of the strongest human emotions. And me saying that sentence, oh, something crazy is going to happen and destroy everything, some people watching this are going to be thinking, oh no, like he's right, that's kind of scary. Fear is able to overtake human emotions so much easier than any rational emotion, right? Fear will dictate everything. And so that's why people have missed out this entire year so far, is literally for one reason: fear. They're fearful because they just watched Bitcoin go down for like 2 years, and they're fearful. They don't think that it's possible. But now, they don't think it's possible Bitcoin can go back up. But now, as we've broken above 30K, as we're at around 34, 35,000, more and more people are slowly starting to realize, wait, what if this cycle just played out very similarly to past cycles, and it really is that easy? It's too easy. It can't happen, right? That's what people have been telling themselves since 15K, $20,000 ago. Now we're at 35K. So I go back to that nightmare that I had, that dream that swiftly, quickly turned into a nightmare. I don't think that I'm bullish enough. If you would ask me what my price prediction for Bitcoin is for this next cycle, first thing that pops in my mind, 150,000. For some people that might seem low. For some people that's, well, actually I've looked at a lot of things online. That seems to be a pretty conservative, rational, bullish opinion on Bitcoin. Meaning if you're at all optimistic on Bitcoin, 150K is not outrageous. It's a realistic, even somewhat conservative price prediction for this cycle, ending probably in 2024, 2025, end of 2024, if anything. But the bigger question that I really think about a lot lately is end of this cycle, right? How will this cycle end? Because the last cycle didn't quite play out like everyone thought it would. We had a weird like double top with 65K and then a couple months later 69K. Nice was the high. It's kind of weird. We haven't necessarily, everyone at the time was saying, no, the cycle can't end until we get a blow off top. Well, we did kind of get a blow off top on 69K, but it was still a little bit different of a structure than we've seen. What I'm curious about this time is, what will the structure be like this time? Because I think it's going to be a little bit different than we've seen. And overall, I with everything that I just mentioned and talked about, I think it's really hard for me to not be more bullish. But I think I might be making a mistake by not being even more bullish.